Hello, I'm Patris Linkard, the Nancy B. Putnam Curator of Fashion and Textiles and the Director of Curatorial Affairs at the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts. Made It, the Women Who Revolutionized Fashion, looks at 250 years of fashion history as it parallels the advancements that women made in social history and in design history. So I invite you to join me in the gallery where we look to reveal, recognize, and celebrate women who made a lasting impact on this evolving industry. For over 70 years, the House of Christian Dior was run by men, a house known for its ultimate femininity. That is until 2016, when the Italian designer Maria Grazia Chiuri took over as creative director for the house. For her first collection, she created a line of t-shirts. The slogan was borrowed from the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie for her manifesto entitled "We Should All Be Feminists." Surrounding this mannequin are quotes by historical figures and contemporary fashion designers that help set the tone and ground the visitor in fashion history, women's history, and social history. So from the 21st century, we immediately jump to the 18th century. Men dictated what could be made and by whom, until a few bold women broke into that system and established their own guilds. Those unknown women helped lay the foundation for the fashion industry as we now know it. From the nameless artists of the 18th century, we move into the 19th and 20th century. We have designers like Lucy Duff Gordon for Lucille or Jean Paquin, who were making inroads in the industry by establishing the precursor to our modern day fashion show, teaching models how to walk and carry their clothes. We also see the birth of the designer label, the establishment of the department store, and advertising in fashion periodicals in new and innovative ways. So two of the designers in this section are Hattie Carnegie and Sally Milgram. Carnegie changed her last name to emulate the wealthiest man in the US at the time, Andrew Carnegie, and actually ran a style column in Vogue magazine offering her tips for readers on a monthly basis, making her essentially the first fashion influencer. And Sally Milgram, who married at age 16 and began work at 17, designed the inauguration gown for Eleanor Roosevelt and created a discount line during the Great Depression, acknowledging that women still wanted to look good while they couldn't necessarily afford the high prices that her collection called for. So in our third section, Seismic Shifts, we look at the way in which silhouettes changed, hemlines rose, and the overall drape of garments paralleled advancements women made in our society. The bias cut, for instance, rotating the fabric to be cut at a 45-degree angle, created the very beautiful, sinuous shapes that enveloped the female form, creating a more glamorous and mature look of the decade. By the 1960s, women were using fashion deliberately as a symbol of resistance and autonomy. Mary Quant, a designer who popularized the miniskirt in the 1960s, says, "It wasn't I or Courage who invented the style, it was the girls on the streets." Essentially, what she's saying is that women were beginning to take control of their own aesthetic and dictate what they wore, when they wore it, and who was designing it. Firmly rooted in the 20th century, Making Choices looks at a variety of clothes made for the modern woman. Everything from maternity wear to the wrap dress by Diane von Furstenberg, to designers like Betsy Johnson and Laura Ashley, to avant-garde couture made by the Japanese designer Rei Kawakubo for Comme des Garçons. Women were asking more of designers, and designers reciprocated. In all business, we start the section by looking at women who were joining the workforce in greater numbers in the mid-20th century. Not daring to be out of step, they appropriated what they saw their male counterparts wearing. But by the late 20th century, designers like Donna Karan and Anne de Meulemeester were offering a variety of clothing that was both experimental and avant-garde, while appropriate for the workplace. For some women, fashion is resistance, and for others, it is provocation. designers such as Zandra Rhodes and Vivienne Westwood harness the power of fashion to act as communication and also connection. Fashion designer Carla Fernandez created this ensemble to be worn at the January 21st, 2017 Women's March, denouncing the inauguration of Donald Trump and as a declaration of hope. In our final section, moving forward, we look at 5 designers who are considering the impact that they have on both the environment and the individuals who make their clothing. For instance, Tracy Reese, for her collection Hope for Flowers, is not only thinking about sustainable design, but is also employing individuals in her community of Detroit, Michigan, or individuals like Natalie Channon, who returned to her hometown of Florence, Alabama, and employed people in her area to create one-of-a-kind garments for her collection, Alabama Channon. Thank you for joining me today as we explored Made It, the Women Who Revolutionized Fashion. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors who made this exhibition a reality, our partnership with the Kunstmuseum Den Haag, and hope to see all of you at the Peabody Essex Museum before it closes March 14th. Thank you again.